Hello, hello, and welcome to this week's episode of The Hard Choice. Simple steps for showing up. My name is Brad Draper. I am your host. I am grateful to be here. I'm especially grateful to be here for this recording. I love these recordings. I generally curate my recordings based off of what happens in life, right? Most of these episodes come about because I had an experience. If you recall, you are a sum of your experiences, and it's amazing what experiences life bring you. I want you to think about your life right now. I want you to think about all that you've been through. The ebbs and the flows, the highs and the lows, the mountain peaks and the mountain valleys. Just like as said in previous episodes, a saw does not function without the peaks and the troughs. You need the troughs for a saw to function. It removes the sawdust and allows the peak to cut deeper into the wood or whatever it is that you're cutting. Peaks and troughs are required. You can't always be on a stagnation. Otherwise, that's known as a plateau or a valley floor. Either way, you're not making any progress. It is those both required. It's that law of opposition. And I want you to think about your life. And now I want you to think about your life if you didn't have the freedoms that you have. I know this podcast is listened all around the world. And so for those listening, this is the 4th of July. This is Independence Day week. And this holiday, of all the holidays, is the reason I am able to do this podcast in my basement of my own free will and choice, post it, do what I want with it. If we were in a different dictatorship or communist regime or where have you, this might look a little different. Because I can exercise, because of this holiday, I can exercise the religious freedoms, the spiritual freedoms that I choose to follow. I can go out and about and drive at will. I can do virtually whatever what I want. And I'm so grateful for that. In my family, my father is a Navy veteran. I have several Army veterans for uncles. And then my wife's family is primarily Air Force. And she has active duty Navy SEAL cousins. Needless to say, the military is pretty heavy in our family, both sides. And I am truly grateful. In fact, my son, my youngest son, my 3-year-old, is named after Michaela's great-grandfather, his surname. And he was crew chief 6 or 7 in the Doolittle raid. So even our kids are named after ancestors that were military, that had world impact. But Independence Day, the day that we became a free country through and through, we gained our freedoms and our own identity as the United States of America. I want you to really ponder about your life and what it would look like without the freedoms that you enjoy, without the opportunities that you have, especially for my listeners that are here in America, the blessings, the opportunities, the fortunes that we have because of those that sacrifice so much. We have active duty military now sacrificing so much, putting so much on the line. Michaela, my wife, her uncle just recently, within the last couple of years, retired after 25 years in the Air Force. He was a second chair in an F-22, if I remember right. It's 22. And he was gone for a year plus at a time. So we watched what it did to the family. Her cousin, he and his wife were both active duty Navy. She retired so they can have a family. But he's still active duty Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 10. How cool that is that I get to sit back, that I am blessed, and I'm so honored to be able to do so, to do all the things that I do. I get to go to these events. I get to exercise my rights. I get to move freely in this world. And there is so much of it that I take for granted on a daily basis. And I'm grateful for this holiday, the 4th of July, that I get to reflect and ponder and curate my thoughts. I try so hard to focus on gratitude. My day starts in gratitude. I try repetitiously throughout the day to bring back gratitude. And it's this day that reminds me how much I really am grateful for. This 4th of July. Funny enough, I used to live in Kentucky. I was in Tennessee and Kentucky as a Christian missionary. And there is a cave there, Mammoth Cave. Most have never heard of it. I suggest you go look it up. It's pretty cool. It is the largest caving system in the world by a long shot. Mammoth Cave is actually larger than the second and third, I think fourth as well, combined. The reason why it is so long is it has so many back doors. It has ways to get in, because if you think about a cave system, you can only go so far, right? You can only carry so much food, so much supplies until you can't go back any further. So there are definitely caves that are longer. They just can't be explored. Mammoth Cave has back doors. It has doors to drop down into the cave along the caving shaft. So you can keep going. It's something like 700 miles of this thing have been mapped. It's massive. The main cavern, my house could probably fit in it. My whole house could probably fit in it. Just drop my house in it. How cool is that? But this cave, Mammoth Cave, is one of the reasons we're a free country. So I'll leave this little fact with you. Pretty cool. I used to go on this tour when I lived there as a Christian missionary. Back in the day, in the 1800s, the owner that owned the land, the landowner, also had slaves. He was not like your typical slave owner. He had relationships with his slaves, and they were more like siblings or family to him than they were a master-slave relationship. So the slave that he had, or one of them, found this cave and wanted to do something with it. He thought it was awesome. So this slave used to take tours for money, for gain. And he got to keep some, and he paid some to his master. But he got to keep some and have his own little business, which is super cool. And in this cave, going back, you can see all the graffiti in the back of the cave, like really deep back. And this graffiti was done by smoke from candle. People would write their names and the dates. And because of where it's at, it's been perfectly preserved. And you can see all of this ancient graffiti. But while they were down there, we were going through the war with England. And we, as America, ran out of black powder. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine going to war with a country and then running out of black powder? No way to shoot your guns. Needless to say, you would win a war very, very quickly if you're just using bayonets, competing with people with cannons and guns. But while they were down there, this slave recognized a product, a material known as silver nitrate. Well, silver nitrate is a key component in black powder, and that is precisely the component we ran out of as Americans. So he reported back to his master, there's silver nitrate in here. If you go to that cave, there is piping made out of trees. They would take the silver nitrate, put it in solution, because there's rivers down there, put it in solution, and run it through these tree pipes. Much of those tree pipes are still there. A lot of it has been replicated from history, but there is some original tree piping still there. They piped out the silver nitrate, evaporated it, and used that to make black powder. Mammoth Cave is quite literally one of the reasons America is still a free country. Because without Mammoth Cave, we would have not had black powder, and without black powder, we would have not won that war. Think about that. I want you to think about the hand of God in all the things with this country, with your family, with your life. all the things working in your favor. I am a big fan of the thought process that the universe is conspiring in your favor. The universe wants you to win. That doesn't mean you don't have to work. You have to work a lot and take every opportunity that comes your way. For if you miss them, you miss a path you could have had. But that doesn't mean that it's eliminated forever. It just means it might take a minute. I was talking to somebody yesterday, one of my business partners actually, and we were reflecting. A couple years ago, I lost a denomination of money due to a few scams. It was the year of scams for me. I got into several. And I learned a ton from those scams. These are invaluable lessons that I learned that have been applied to business, been applied to life, been applied to relationships and friendships and business partnerships and so many things. It was 2022 when that happened. And I was joking with her. I had an opportunity to invest in a business at the time. I used that denomination of money for the things that I did. It was multiple investments. They all turned out to be scams. I could have put in another investment. Fast forward to the end of last year, the person that would have been my primary partner got indicted for scamming over $100 million. Interesting, right? The opportunities that were presented, all of which were scams. It was inevitable for me to go through these lessons via scam. Lessons, the only way to learn them is to be scammed. Interesting thought, right? Every path would have led me to the same outcome. Now that we fast forward 3 years. So cool and so grateful. You can look back, and I do have friends that 3 years later, they look back in bitter distaste and disgust for the scams that they were a part of and how hateful they are and resentful they are, and just so glad that the persons that scammed us are currently going to prison. They've all been indicted. They've all gone through trial. They've all got their dates. And how glad they are. Whereas I have pretty much no emotion towards it. It sucks that they went through it, and the people that they scammed, especially some of those people like the elderly women, and used their retirement. That's messed up. But I look back in gratitude. I look back for the opportunity to learn the lessons that I learned to prevent further, larger losses. And how important that is. It's important to reflect because it's in the reflection that you learn the lesson. You rarely learn the lesson while it's happening, but you definitely learn the lesson on the reflection. And I'm so grateful for it. And most of my reflection is done via journaling. So I'm such a large proponent of journaling. I think this morning I'm somewhere in the unbroken days of 2,300 plus or 2,400 plus, something like that. How cool that is. But on this day, the 4th of July, I want you to reflect on the freedoms that you enjoy, the life that you had because so many sacrificed so much for you. And they would have done it all over again for you. You are not here by coincidence. You are not here by accident. You were here on purpose, with a purpose, on purpose, with a purpose. And it is up to you to figure out what that is and to act upon it and to pursue and create a bigger, grander life for yourself and for those around you. And imagine a world where everybody did that. That we didn't have any freeloaders. We didn't have anybody sitting around bagging the system, sandbagging through life. But if everybody contributed to their maximum purpose and potential, now that's a world I want to be a part of. And that's a world that I am fighting for. And it starts with you. As one of my mentors says, I will repeat here because it is so true. Your personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. And that's from my mentor, Andy Frisella. So I'll say him on this because that is not my statement, but it is so true. Your personal excellence is the ultimate rebellion. So stand up, fight for your freedoms, fight for your opportunities, and be the example you wish you had. Share this conversation with your friends and your family. It's the only way it grows. You can find me on social, Mr. Brad Draper. Like this thing, subscribe to it, download it for future listenings. Until next week, I love you guys. Bye.